Welcome, supers, back to another Shark Tank Tank Tales episode. I'm Super Joe Parter for all that don't know, and today I have the absolute pleasure of introducing somebody here on the show that is working to change the world. Well, aren't we all changing the world? But by trying to be super and bring that in other people, but this gentleman is working to change the world through the environment in which we all live and make it better and safer for all of us. Everyone, I need super claps wherever you are right now, sitting on the bus, sitting on the toilet. I see you sitting on the toilet, sitting, waiting for the bus or waiting at a traffic light. Please don't drive and watch us. Maybe you're listening to the podcast. Wherever you're doing right now, I need some super claps for Super Dinesh Tadepalli. Did I say it right?
Not bad, right?
Not bad. Tadepalli.
Tadepalli, yeah, Tadepalli.
Tadepalli.
That's
Ding
fine.
ding. Super Dinesh, how are you doing today?
I'm good, Joe. I'm very excited to share my share my experience, and very excited for this. And thanks for your previous video and all the amazing comments there.
You are so welcome. Thank you so much for being here with us and wanting to share your story to help inspire other super entrepreneurs and help us all learn and compare notes and things like that. Especially when it comes to the Shark Tank and everything that comes with the territory of doing so.
Thank you.
So let's start prior to Shark Tank. You came up with this idea of the edible spoon, or I yeah. So let's
Uh,
start from there, or well, wanting to create an edible spoon.
yes. Okay. That's a great question. I think this would answer a lot of comments on the previous video as well. So, about I think around 2018, like end of 2019, after my daughter was born, we went to an ice cream shop, me and my kids, and we had an ice cream. I like we had fun, we loved it, we just finished it, and we threw the cup and the spoon into the bin, and I noticed like hundreds of plastic spoons and cups there. Suddenly, it struck me as an educated person who has been, I mean, I did my master's and bachelor's, and I'm pretty well educated. I'm aware of the plastic pollution, climate change, and all that stuff. My question that struck me all of a sudden was, why didn't I think twice before using a plastic spoon? Obviously, we do feel bad once we use it, or when we hear the news, or when we see a documentary about plastic pollution or climate change and anything that. But why isn't that reflecting into our actions? That was a very deep question or thought that arose in me, and I was like, yes, okay, I need to do something about this. I went back home and I did some research on finding out how bad it is, and it scared me. Like, humans are already consuming a credit card sized of microplastics per week through the air they breathe, through the water they drink, and through the food they eat. And if it's that bad with us, I was worried about my young children. If they grow up, what would be the world that they will live in? And this was the seed of our entrepreneurship or a startup. And obviously, I looked at the alternatives. I looked at compostable cutlery, but most of them was greenwashed. Even if it's made from plant-based fibers, unless you actually sort them, put them, and take them to a composting facilities, they won't be composted.
Mm.
Because and even I spoke to a few composting facilities in the US, and they said they won't take cutlery because it's very hard to differentiate between a plastic and a compostable cutlery. So there were a lot of challenges across the chain. No one travels through the product and finds out whether it really it's is it really doing the change that it's supposed to. So that's when I came across, I thought, okay, what about edible cutlery? And I looked into it. I did notice Bakey's. A lot of people brought that company up in the previous comments, that they brought the edible cutlery and they got super famous. There were so many videos and amazing things there. Okay, I was like, okay, very happy, nice, someone has come up with this. Now let's go bring that forward and bring that product into the US. But I already noticed that there was this another person who worked with Bakey's and brought it to the US Kickstarter. They raised a lot of money in Kickstarter, but they couldn't deliver the product. Then I dug deeper. Why couldn't they deliver the product? I tried to read articles and find out more about them. Then I realized that they couldn't scale. They got super famous before they could make the machinery possible. So that's where the engineering in us, me and Kruval is in India. His company back in India is Trishula. So both of us, we worked together and we found out a way to manufacture them. By the way, even before we manufacture them, we approached, at least I sent an email to Becky saying, hey, this is so and so. I have my engineering skills that I can utilize to make scalable better, I mean, to make your product scalable. But we didn't get any reply. So we decided, okay, we need to do something about this, and we started making the machines, or the actual process to make it mass scalable. So that was the reason why I said world's first mass scalable cutlery. I didn't say it's the world's first cutlery. Yes, it is not my brain. The edible cutlery part is not my brainchild, but our brainchild is basically the machinery. The how do you make them is our brainchild, and that was what our patent is right now. Actually, we did discuss a lot about this, about our patent, which is still pending, by the way, but it's mostly concentrated on the process, not the product.
Mm.
And once we got the first 100 spoons out of the machine, that's when we started selling and showing the product into the market. This was, by that time, it was already like early 2019. And once we were confident about, yeah, the machines can work, it can make the cutlery possible. And a lot of effort went into that. Like, we literally spent close to 1 year and also 80 plus trials to actually make that possible. It was not an easy task, because see, making by hand, making it very in a small scale was much easy, but actually trying to make it automated, trying to make sure that it works correctly. And also, not just that, right? We did see some negative feedback on the product. We still get on our product too. On the original edible cutlery product, they were too flaky. It breaks easily. So
Mm.
the biggest challenge about edible cutlery is the thickness or the strength of the spoon or any other cutlery needs to be right enough for you to use it as a spoon, and easy enough to eat it after. So yeah, so that was the biggest challenge, right? I mean, what's the right thing? What's the right strength? What's the right tensile strength? What's the right machinery? What's the right baking temperature? So it was actually not an easy task. So we thankfully Kruval, and most of it, like 80% of them, he was able to actually get it done, and I helped him with some of the designs and investments too. So once we brought that product into the market in the US, the first trade show that I signed up. By the way, since, as I mentioned, I'm an engineer by background, I did my master's here in electronic engineering and all that stuff. I had zero experience in food industry. So how do I sell it, right? So I signed up for this 9 trade shows in 2019. Entire, like, about small ones, not the big ones, not the ones which you pay thousands of dollars and get a booth, fancy booth, and all that stuff. Very, very small ones where in fact, I convinced the trade shows to give me a free booth because this will help the planet. So it was all very frugal, because I didn't have investments. I didn't have enough money to, my money was spent on the machinery part itself, already my savings. So the first trade show we went was Cater Source in New Orleans, and we you won't believe, I didn't even know how a trade show looks like. That's my first trade show in my life.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I know CES, electronics trade shows and all, but food side I have no idea. So I
CES is very different from like
yes.
the homegrown home shows, the RV
Yes,
shows, the
yes.
municipality shows, and things like that.
Yeah, so I went there. I just went with a suitcase and with paper printouts of a product, and like a basic rough cost sheet and a price sheet, as well as some spoons that I had in my hand. That's it. I didn't know that I have to go get a table, a chair, a booth, a banner, all the fancy stuff they do. And I went there. I was like, oh my God, okay, what do I do now? So I immediately went to Walmart, got a table and 2 chairs, and I didn't have any banners or any displays behind me. It was just me, my product on the table, and few papers. That's it. And I started talking with people. You won't believe, it was 3 days, and the third day, one caterer from Canada, he came to my table and they said, "Can you give me the best cost that you have?" I told him, "What is the quantity that you're looking for?" He said, "I will order right now 150,000 spoons if you can give me the best cost."
Yes.
So I was there standing. I had not sold a single spoon till then. I got the order, which was like 150,000 spoons. My first question was, will I be even be able to do this? But then I was like, okay, we need to do it no matter what, because that's a big boost for me. So I immediately gave him the cost to manufacture itself. I didn't even put a single penny margin on it, because I want this to go through. So I gave him the lowest cost, and I just and I came back home. I told my wife and my partner Cruel back in India. We were so happy about this, and then I decided we're like, how will we scale this up? That's when I had to sell my home in California to use those proceeds to scale up the facility in India to actually meet the demand of this $150,000, 50,000 spoons, basically. So that's how this entire thing started. With that first order, we had to scale immediately within the next 4 5 months. We went from like 100 spoons a day to 5,000 spoons a day. So, and right now we are at like 40,000 spoons a day. That's the scale right now. So that's it. It was a step-by-step process. No investors, no advisors, nothing. It was all raw, frugal approach of going and meeting people and understanding how the industry works. I had no clue what a distributor means. I had no clue what a wholesaler is. What is this margin? What is that margin? It was ridiculous when I first went through the entire margin part of it, how a dollar product is sold at $10 on the shelf. That was very surprising and amazing for me. I was like, oh my God, like the product cost is so little, but by the time it goes to the shelf, it's super expensive. That actually gave me an answer in the US when I came to US from India in the first few years. I was like, why are the stores so huge? Why do they have everything in the world here? I didn't understand how are they making money, but now I understood. Looking at the margins that they charge, it's a very interesting experience for me, and that's how we grew as we went forward.
So there's a ton to unpack there, Dinesh. All right,
Yeah,
so let's. So when you went there, did you when you went to the trade show, did you have a spoon with you, or you just had
yeah.
the paperwork? Okay, so
No,
he
I
was
had
they were people were able to taste
eat
the
it.
spoon,
Yep,
eat
yep,
the spoon.
yep.
Okay. So that is still a key point there. But I'm willing to bet that even if you didn't have the spoon there, you would have gotten enough. You would have gotten interest from at least one person that could have been like, "Hey, as soon as you have the spoon, like let's talk. You know,
Yep,
here's my card. Let's make it happen." Those shows are generally very expensive, and to your point of like the markup of like, "Hey, this thing cost me this Linus Tech Tips bottle cost me $1 to make, and now I got to sell it for 30. What the heck, right?"
yeah,
The those shows a lot of times the booths and this is for other entrepreneurs to realize that where they're hosting them matters a lot because they might have to use union work and where in your case where you're like, oh, I gotta run to Walmart and like get a folding table and some chairs.
mhm.
Like you literally at a lot of shows aren't able to do that because
Yeah,
of the union. Like if the union didn't put that tablecloth on there, then there's no tablecloth going on
yeah,
there, kind of thing. And that's where it's like, ooh, that tablecloth might only be like a $3 tablecloth, but because somebody, has to put it on, and this isn't an anti or pro union thing. This is the way it is, and things to be
mhm.
expected going forward. Now, when you say I was there for 3 days. I've done these shows and I've stood there for 3 4 days where it's like on the fourth day, we're literally like throwing the promotional football back and forth because there's like so few people coming through at that point. But that's the day that it sparks with somebody to like have that conversation. And now we're selling a tractor. Now we're selling parts. Now we're doing that like things break like the people that really care sometimes you have to wait till that last day to really get them. And I applaud you for doing I gotta literally, I'm not just gonna say it, I'm gonna actually do it.
Thanks.
You're welcome, of going in and making that decision that I've never done. I've never even been to one of these things before. I don't know what to do or how to do. But the ingenuity, the thought of like, let me convince somebody to give this to me for free because we're going to do something huge here is super awesome. And it just goes to show you, look, not everyone's going to give everybody a free chance to like, hey, here's a booth because they sell those booths. Sometimes it's 5,000, sometimes it's 5,000, $10,000 per booth for 10 foot by 10
Yeah,
foot booth.
yeah.
So it can
So
be expensive. Go ahead.
another thing that we did initially to reduce cost was like to share the booth. You go to an existing booth holder and say, hey, especially if they have ice cream or something that spoons can go with, I like, oh, please, hey, can you just give me like, 5 feet of like just a little bit of small table for me to put in there and I can co-sell it. And I'm still doing that. Like just last week, I went to IAPA. It's actually a trade show where all the amusement industry comes in.
Yep.
I was in Florida last week, entire week, and I didn't get a booth there. I went. Dippin' Dots partnered with us. That's another good news that I would like to share. 2 weeks ago, Dippin' Dot officially agreed to partner with us. Dippin' Dots ice cream.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah. I mean, this was even before Shark Tank. We started talking to them long ago. Anyway, so we actually went there and they just gave a small space in their big booth, and we just sold the spoons along with the ice cream because it goes best along with that. So what I'm trying to say is, like, anyone who is looking for these trade shows, you don't have to be afraid about, what's the worst could happen, right? If you can just ask the booth holders and say, hey, okay, either give me an opportunity to share my costs with another booth holder, or if you have anything left out, like in the last few, like, especially, by the way, cater shows, I signed up just 1 week before the show started. So yeah, so it's you can actually, it's doesn't hurt you to ask. So that's what happened to me. And you have to be frugal as much as you can, right? Because in the end, literally, I invested all my home sale, my entire savings of my 10 years into this. So and
Yeah.
yeah, so it's very rewarding, right? Like, the first, within, I think, 1.5 year, we were able to replace 1 million plastic utensils with edible spoons, and that was very rewarding for me. I was like, oh wow, that gave me more happiness than me making $1 million.
Well, we're gonna get you there to multiple millions of dollars. Before we move on, I just wanted to quick point out though, for the super entrepreneurs out there, when you guys a great point about sharing, not just sharing the booth, but like there's big companies, big business share space, right? Think about the commercials that you see on TV where they share, like, it's a McDonald's commercial, but it's also a Coke commercial at the same time, and they're sharing that very valuable space. It's maybe a Super Bowl commercial where multiple companies are all coming together to have one message, and they're sharing that space. It's still marketing. It might be for a good reason, like a good, cause or whatever, but it's all synergy. Then, and the ability to share that space makes so much sense, especially when it clicks. Edible spoons, and ice cream make so much sense, that it's like, oh yeah, no, this makes sense. Let's make it happen. And I think a lot of times it actually strengthens the other company as well, as as a synergistic thing. It's not just on like, oh, the big guy is just doing a favor to you. It makes them look good because, hey, they're giving up space to somebody who's giving back to the environment, in a big way. So let's fast forward. So did you seek out Shark Tank? Did Shark Tank seek out you?
The other way, the Shark Tank found us again
Gotcha.
through trade shows. As I mentioned, right, the decision of attending 9 trade shows really helped me, because, see, the reason I wanted to go attend so many was to understand the industry. I wanted to meet people, and because you won't find this on Google, right? You won't. I mean, obviously, you can do an MBA and find the theoretical part of it, but in practice, you really need to go talk to people and understand how things work. I mean, you have to make mistakes. I made a mistake. I made a couple of costly mistakes too during the process. So but you keep learning from it and then trying to push forward yourself. And for me, meeting people was more important to me because I wanted to understand firsthand how the industry works. So, and I did my coursework of MBA online, just a regular online courses like Coursera, and on, like, I didn't do any big MBAs or anything. It's just like part time. I just went and did some coursework online. So, but again, in the end, was I have only limited amount of money, and how do I make the biggest impact with that? It's my entire, like, that's always running in the background. Another example I would like to share is, apart from the trade shows. Sorry, actually, I'll get back to that later. But let's, to answer your question. So one of, I think, Winter Fancy Food Show. I'm guessing. I don't know exactly how it happened, but right, we won the best food pitch competition at the Winter Fancy Food Show in San Francisco in February of 2020. Actually, January of 2020. So that made us a little more visible in the PR side. Like, a lot more outlets and news outlets actually put forward our, like, at least my picture and the award and the product and everything. And immediately, I mean, about a month after that, a producer reached out to us asking if we want to apply to the Shark Tank. So that's how it happened. But again, I can't guarantee that's the only thing that went through. But before that, I won quite a few pitch awards as well, and I got few pre-R as well. So I don't know, it might be a combination of all of that. But I had not applied because for me, I was an immigrant. I'm still an immigrant. So at that time, my visa status didn't allow me to even apply for the Shark Tank. So when they approached,
Ah.
when they approached in 2020, I couldn't. But in 2021, when they approached again asking me to checking with my status, I told them that it proceeded forward and I got my EAD, my green. I mean, I didn't get my green card yet, but it's getting there,
It's
slowly
yeah.
getting. Yeah. So that's when they said, oh, they became more flexible now which was not like before. And now I got the opportunity to go pitch and all that stuff. So
Something you said, the littlest amount of money to get the biggest impact. As a person who is an aspiring engineer, engineer myself, or what's the term, commercial engineering, uh, the that just screams engineering to me. You know, like I only have
yeah.
this much space to work in. So how can I make the biggest amount of impact? I mean, it's like we're going to build an iPhone and we're going
Yeah.
this is the shape in which we are going to build it in. What gives us the best bang for the space, right? Bang for the bucks, bang for the space.
Mhm. Yeah, so I was, as I mentioned, since being an outsider of the food industry, my thought process was completely different. I didn't care about raising money. I didn't care about showing up in thousands of stores. I didn't care about all that. For me, my biggest thing is I have, with whatever resources I have, and all the time, right? Because I was working full time while doing all this. It was not just doing this on the full time basis. So with whatever time I have, with whatever resources I have, with whatever money I have, I need to do my best. So just to give another story on how it went well was, um, like I saw one of a very famous pop singer. I can't disclose her name because of NDA reasons. She came to one of the late night shows. I think with Stephen Colbert or someone else. I forgot Jay Leno. One of them. Uh, she came and she's like, "Oh, I'm all my concerts in 2020 will not have any plastic in there." So that caught my eye and the ear, and I was like, "Okay, I need to approach her. Now, what do I do?" I the people whom I met, they told, okay, you can go to contact PR agencies. But when I contacted PR agencies, they quoted me a very ridiculous amount of money with no guarantee that they can even reach the celebrity, because she's an A-list celebrity. She's very famous actually. So I'm a huge fan of her songs. That's why I know how famous she is. So I like, okay, PR saying, okay, give me this many amount of dollars. So, but they can't guarantee. Like, okay, I don't have that much money right now. What do I do? So that's when I went into LinkedIn mode. I love Sales Navigator on LinkedIn. That's a tool that you can actually search for contacts. I religiously spend 20 minutes every day, even now, to find contacts in the food industry too. Yeah. So it's and then I try to do some Google searches, find her manager's name. Once I found her manager's name, I made some combination of emails, because I didn't know what company. There's only a little bit you can make it public, right? You can't get every information on Google. So through my like I did my master's in USC, so my through alumni, I tried to find some way or the other the company that the manager works. And once I found the company's name, I just made some combination of email addresses, like first name, last name, first letter, last letter, like all different ways that we use. And then I just sent emails saying, "Hey, we have this product. Do you want to try a product in one of your concerts?" And luckily, within 2 weeks, I got a reply back saying, "Pitch, please." I mean, obviously, there were many more replies saying mailer demon, no email exists, and all that stuff, but that's okay. So all it takes is one email to go through. And I it luckily went through, and he got back and he said, "Hey, pitch, send me a pitch." I sent them the pitch, then I sent the samples. He tested it first. He liked the samples. He loved the samples. He loved my story, and he's like, he introduced me to the singer. She loved the product. Her family loved the product. And then she came back and said, "Hey, I can't taste this because I'm a gluten sensitive. I don't eat gluten." Now, at that time, I had even now I can, most of my spoons are made with wheat. So like, I told her, please give me like 3 months. We went back to the table, R&D table, and like try to figure out what's the way to we can make a gluten-free product. And we made a product which is not as good as what we have right now, but still something working. So we gave it to her, and she liked the dedication that, okay, I'm very serious about this. And she's like, okay, let me help you. And they introduced me to Live Nation. Live Nation introduced me to a concert hall. Within 6 months, I sold 5,000 spoons to Madison Square Garden in New York. That's a trial. So
Wow. Okay.
so uh, but unfortunately COVID came and it put a pause on all of that stuff. But yeah, what I'm trying to say is, it's not impossible. Like, people think you need money, you need contacts to make it possible. It just needs some time, endurance. You just have to bear with it. And for me, another advantage of me working is I don't have to worry about my family, my bills, my rent, my home. It's like, I can take care of myself. So as long as I'm okay with that, I'm content with what I have. Yeah, it can go slower. Yeah, maybe if I had $1 million of investment, I would have made it faster, but that's okay.
Yeah, I think that's a fair. I think that's a fair assessment, and I think as long as your needs are being met, like it's not the. Well, I don't want to say it's not the end of the world because, like,
It is actually
it kind
on
of is,
plastic.
but it's not the
Yeah.
end of your personal bubble world. Like, oh, if I don't sell these, then I'm not going to eat tomorrow. I don't know where the money is going to come to pay the bills tomorrow. And that level of comfortability enables you to be able to make the right decisions, not snap decisions. And I kind of like some of the sharks might disagree where it's like, oh no, you got to be hungry and you got to go like and get like go for the kill and everything. You do, to a point. But the thing is if you're worried, and they've said this on the show too, if you're worried about where the next meal is going to come from or where the next month's worth of money is going to come from, you're not eyes on the prize of growing the business and growing your craft of what you're doing. And that that's the thing where it's like you might not have had the opportunity to like go and find that gluten-free option because you'd be like, I gotta get selling because if I don't sell, I don't eat. If I don't eat, well then I'm starving, my family's starving, we might be out of a house like or a home like all these things, and then the it becomes like this snowball effect of like stress and pressure and all of that. And what you're developing isn't a, oh, I have a million of these cups that are already made, I need to go door to door and just be like, hi, do you need a cup? Here's a cup, I got the cup for you. You literally are like developing the future of disposable cutlery. So it's going to take a little longer than
Yeah.
just like let me go door to door and get like the Mark Cuban I sold trash bags door to door
Yes.
example.
And another advantage that I kind of got out of going really slow was feedback. So I think Daniel mentioned this in one of the Shark Tank episodes, which I really synced well with because I really thought in the same way. Uh, First, I mean, every entrepreneur has to go through three phases like create, criticize, and then crusade. That's what the exact statements that he used. I'm just going to repeat what he said. So one is create. So that part is where the actual R&D part and you know create the product and everything. And the second is critique. This is the part a lot of people miss. So basically, once you create a product, right, we're obviously biased. We're biased towards it. Like, oh, this is my baby. It is the best in the world. Obviously, that's what you're supposed to think, and you think like that. But that's not the reality, right? So the reality is might be different. So for me, that was more important. That's one of the biggest reasons I took really slow was even though I had the technology or at least the way to make this product, I didn't approach any investments. I didn't raise till 2021. I didn't raise any penny. For me, I wanted to see how people absorb it. So once I introduce it to the market, are people liking it? Are people hating it? What is it? Because another challenge that I had was it didn't exist in the market before. So how do I know whether my product is best or not? See, if I'm making a cake, which I mean, like if I'm making a better cupcake, then I know what to compare it against. But I'm making something which didn't exist before, at least in the market, in the open market. So I need to understand how people think about it. And that's the reason why I thought, okay, for the first 1 or 2 years, I mean, I initially thought only 1 year, but COVID made it 2 years of critique time. So let people give me some feedback. Initially, we didn't have that many sweet flavors. We only had plain flavor. We couldn't figure out how to add sugar in the spoon, but
Mm.
people hated the initial spoon when there was no sugar in it. It was too bland, it was too salty, and it didn't go well with the ice cream. So all these feedback, right? What I did was whenever I got a negative review, I literally was so happy. I was like, okay, I need this, I need those. I didn't care about, I mean,
Yes.
obviously the 5-star reviews make me really happy inside, but the outside I intentionally thought I should be happy when I got a negative review, and I celebrated them because I thought, okay, that's the honest, real feedback. And those feedback is coming from people who are not thinking about the environment side of things. Obviously, if you look at the environment side of the things, the plastic pollution side of the things, these have to be 5-star compared to a plastic spoon. I'm not going to deny that. But I want normal people who might not be aware of plastic pollution to understand this as a food product and give me feedback on how good or bad the food product is. So I gathered about 200 negative 1-star reviews from 2000 or about 1500 total reviews. And we observed all of that, and we went back to the table and say, how can we make this better? And that's how we came with this new 2.0 versions. If you see my website, you'll see 2.0s and 1.0s, how the 2.0 versions came out into place. And that's what I actually pitched in Shark Tank as well. And again, that's the critique phase. And the third is the crusade phase. Okay, now you have your MVP, now you have your reiterated product, and now you can go actually push it forward to crusade it and get it into the deeper into the market.
Yeah, no, 100%. So I always welcome, and people that have seen the comments and stuff that that I've shown over the last year on this channel know that I do read all the comments, and the negative comments, while sometimes are super rude or shallow and not very constructive or helpful, there's sometimes hints in there that can really help you. They might not know how to describe their angst about the product or the what they're experiencing. And but that's where it's on us to like take that, interpret it, and say, well, what can we provide? What can I change? What, maybe there's something, maybe there is another way, to get there. And so I definitely applaud the taking those negative, getting excited about negative feedback, because literally, that's the only way you're going to get better. Now, I do have an order for those 2.0s, and I'm looking forward to getting them and trying. I know my wife's looking forward to trying them out. I'll have the kids try them out with
Mm-hmm.
some ice cream. So we're looking forward to that here in
Thanks.
the near future. No, thank you. And okay, so Shark Tank, it comes up. You're able to get in. You're preparing. How did you go about preparing for your pitch?
Yeah, for me, it was initially mostly rooted and pitched towards plastic pollution, how bad it is, and showing people how bad it is and all that stuff. But I got feedback later on saying that, like, don't make it too gloomy, make it more fun too. Because see, the product has two facts to it. One is obviously the sustainability fact, where it's just almost zero footprint, and the second is the fun aspect of it. Hey, oh, like I can actually surprise my grandchildren eating my spoon in front of them. So the second is the fun aspect of it. The first is the sustainability, and the second is the fun aspect of it. I was initially too stuck with sustainability because that was what my head was thinking about. Like, oh, this much plastic, this much plastic, this much plastic. Literally, like every in US alone, we use 100 million plastic disposable cutlery every day. So I was just stuck with that. But then I got feedback from everyone saying that, hey, don't make it too gloomy because most of us already know. So make it fun and more approachable to a normal person. So that was the feedback initially that I got.
Yeah, I think that's because we're talking about ice cream here, and I'm a big ice cream fan personally. So, I think it needs to, it should reflect that, and I'm glad that you got that feedback, because you probably wouldn't get the same reaction, because as you said, people know we're using a lot of plastic. We use a lot of things. I mean, even just single use anything, I look at it and I'm like, that it hurts my heart, but at the same time, it's like like there isn't always another option. And I think even just making steps in the right direction as much as we possibly can is helpful, right? It's as Kirk is, I don't know if you ever watch Kirk Kazar on YouTube.
No.
Well, they do. It's called In a Nutshell.
Oh
The
yeah, now I
translation?
know. Okay,
Yeah.
I didn't understand your pronunciation, but
Oh.
I understand what you're trying to go about. Yeah, yeah. In a nutshell, yes, I do see those videos. Yeah.
Yeah, they did the one on pollution, or what, CO2 usage, or expulsion into,
Yep.
and they're like, how can we all fix the problem? And it's like, well, even if you and I did the right thing for like 70 years of our life and used like almost no plastics, used as little electricity as possible, did all the things we could do, we would save 1 second of CO2 expulsion into the planet with over a course of 70 years. one
Yeah.
second. So it's like, even if we all did that, it still would just not be enough. But we need to do what we can, where we can, and where it makes sense to. And that's so I think. But when you're talking about a pitch where you're trying to get people excited about ice cream, gets me excited. It's important that you inject the fun into it, and when people have that fun experience with a product or with with a product or service, then they're going to say, "Ooh, I make that connection." When I saw it, my first thought was, the wooden spoon thing. But as we know, you can't. I think I don't know if you did you say it in here or before we got on the air about the compostable
Yeah,
aspect
brainwashed.
about it.
Yes.
And it's tough because anything that has food contamination on it, they also can't recycle it. And one of the things I
Yeah.
wanted to bring up was, it's like, oh, why can't we all just get things? I don't understand why we don't use more recyclable plastic to begin with. Because like my local recyclables, you get one or
It's
two, and that's it. And there's like 6 or 7, 8
yeah,
different
yeah, yeah.
plastics.
Actually, I went a little bit of depth into there. So the problem with virgin plastic ends up more cheaper than recycled plastic. That's the biggest reason why you see more virgin plastic, because it's a byproduct of petroleum industry, right? So it's much easier to buy a fresh plastic rather than buying a recycled plastic. And yeah, you're right. Only 9% of the entire plastic that got generated got recycled. So it's very 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 appalling number. And previously, we used to, at least in the US, we used to send it out offshore for recycling. But once China shut its doors, they were just trying to push it to smaller countries to just dump it there. And what mattered me the most is, I mean, not to show any bias or unbias against anyone here, to be really politically correct as much as I can. We can't ship our trash to someone else and say others are polluting the environment.
I have these conversations all of the time with certain people, and
Yeah.
and they're like, "Oh, but they're polluting and they're polluting." I'm like, Why are they polluting so much? Because they're making stuff for us. We are the people buying this. Are you like that part doesn't? It's convenient to like look the other way and be like,
Yeah.
"Oh, that." You know what it is? It's the Scarface effect. The scene where in the restaurant, and he's like, "Y'all, you guys can all look around and like, there's the bad guy. I can point my finger at. There's the bad. I'm the good guy. There's the bad guy." And it just, yeah. I mean, that scene
Yeah.
is so. I mean, there's a lot of scenes in Scarface that are powerful,
Yeah.
but that scene to me is one of the
Yeah.
most powerful because it makes the biggest statement about
So
other people's perception of we can point as long as we can point the finger at somebody else, we can feel better about ourselves. And I'm not averse to the fact that I'm drinking my G Fuel out of a plastic container here. I get it, right? But I plan on using it for as long as I possibly
that's
can,
yes, yes.
and not a single use. With that said, I got my Linus Tech Tips steel water bottle here for water.
So yeah, again, see, that's the whole point, right? For me, I understand a lot of us are aware of it, but why aren't our actions reflecting is my question. So I'm trying to approach that question. Like, forget about my edible spoon product or straw, whatever it is.
Hmm.
Yeah, the product is good and all that stuff. For me, in the end, as you mentioned, when you go to a next ice cream shop, you need to be given a choice. Do you want an edible spoon or do you just want to stick with a plastic spoon? Then your pain point increases. See, if I'm making decent money and if I go eat an ice cream for $5, and if they tell me, hey, give me, do you want an edible spoon for like another 50 cents? Let's say, just say worst case. I wouldn't mind think twice because I know that by not choosing an edible spoon, I'll intentionally choose a plastic spoon, which will hurt me in my irrational thought or in my back of my mind. So that was what I want to gain. It's not about the product, it's not about the sales, it's not about all the marketing. It in the end, I want it to reflect to a consumer choice and their actions rather than just saying plastic, plastic, plastic. So that's the reason why I felt edible cutlery is more fun, because that gives an option which is not just inducing fun but also giving you an option saying I don't want to use a plastic spoon.
Yeah, I know. Well, here in Jersey, they've started
Yeah.
an initiative to stop giving out plastic straws, unless you ask for them. Which, if you're getting a soda, I can understand that. But like, I got a frozen drink at Taco Bell. I'm gonna need a spoon unless I'm gonna have to go and get my own reusable ones at Wawa here in Jersey. They
Yeah.
or in the Northeast, they offer a reusable
Hmm.
a straw
Hmm.
for
Hmm.
like 50 cents, I think. So it's
Yeah.
one you could take home. The problem there is at least the way I see it, is the education isn't there to say, okay, so I have this cup and the cup is throwawayable, but now the straw is not throwawayable. So now I gotta clean that straw off and get it home. But I'm like in the car, which is why I stopped at Wawa at the first place before I head out on a big trip
Yeah.
to get like to eat in
Yeah.
the car. So now I'm
So
trying to like save the thing, and it's just a mindset
Yeah,
change.
that also brings a very interesting topic here. There was this recent study that a lot of people who are buying the reusable stainless steel bottles, they're buying too many of them. Yeah, they want to do good for the planet, but what happens up is, yeah, it's
Yeah,
still
no, I
it's
believe it. I
you know
believe it.
it's still lesser of the evils. Like, as coming back to the Wawa reusable straw, right? Yeah, it is obviously like at least 100 times better than using 100 plastic straws, even if you use it 100 times. But what happens is, as you mentioned, if the reusable straw is only like 550 cents, they're going to use it and throw it away. We do it. I mean, it goes beyond that. They're like, oh, I don't want to take this, wash this, throw, like, let me just buy another one next time I go there, or I'll stop going there, I'll go to some other place which has a plastic straw. So, like, what I'm trying to say is, our actions, right? I mean, we need to really reflect on that, and sometimes it's because of the time, because of the resources, or because of even the whether we can even afford it. It all matters there. So
Yeah.
again, this brings back to that question that was mostly put in the tank, right? Like, oh, why would someone pay it for this? For me, it's like, why wouldn't they, when you give that as a default option? Like, yeah, go the other way around. Like, charge your customers $5.50 for your ice cream and give an edible spoon by default. And the shop is making 25-30 cents there. If I'm gonna charge them only 20 cents per spoon, if they sell for 30-50 cents per spoon, they're going to make 30 cents per order. They're going to be super happy. That's an extra cash revenue. That was my argument there. Charge your customers by default, and then give an option to say, hey, reduce 50 cents if you don't want an edible spoon. So
Yeah.
that increases the pain point. Once the pain point is increased, then yes, people will try to make the best decision as they can. And coming back to this, right? Yeah, you're right. 1 or 2 persons making this for 70 years of change might not be a big difference. But if even millions of, like, even a 1 million people on a daily basis, if they make a change, it will still make a big impact. And the bigger change that would come is, if 1 million people are doing this, they will impact the local city or county, or the government itself, which can actually snowball or roll into a bigger dedication towards, saving the planet. So
Yeah, no, absolutely, and I think from a bot, like, if you're like in the Wawa situation, that where it's like, oh, the plastic silverware is there, or I could just get the edible one. I actually would take the edible one because then I can just eat it. It's one
yeah,
less piece of
yeah,
trash in general
yeah,
that I'm gonna have to handle. But I would like to see. There's a lot of situations where I would like to see reusable
yeah.
silverware
No,
utilized.
agreed.
I think we need to change like the whole logic. And I think even I've talked about this with friends of mine. Like, I think that there should be like government funding for this kind of stuff, because obviously people are still going to maybe throw the stuff away. People are going to steal some of it, this, that, and the third. Especially if you're talking about like a food court at the mall, right? That is one example. Why do we have disposable stuff? It's not that you can't have disposable stuff there. Like,
Yeah.
oh, are you planning on taking this out to your car to eat it? Okay,
Mm.
sure, I get it. Put it in the wrapper or whatever in that case. But if you're not, then if you're just going to be there, then, like, okay, you have the silverware and you put it up like what they do at IKEA. I think that it's a culture shift that needs to happen
Yeah.
as a whole, and then you mix in the edible,
Yeah.
utensils,
Yeah.
and it kind of starts to snowball from there. Of like, okay, so
And
we have more options of not just throwing stuff out for the sake of, like, well, we didn't know if you were going to stay or not.
yeah.
Like,
And actually, that brings back to a very interesting question, right? A lot of times I tell in the news interviews or anything like that, my goal is is not asking people to buy the edible spoons if they have a chance to use the reusable spoons. Like, for example, I don't want anyone to buy the product if they have an opportunity to use the stainless steel cutlery at home. I'm fine with it, because that's the better than what our product too. I'm okay with that. But if at your home situation you have a birthday party, you don't want to really go through the washing of all the utensils. You want to make it more interesting. You want to educate your guests with, sustainability options. Yes, then buy the spoons. So, for if single use is a must, like you go to a game, you can't really take your cutlery with you. You can't wash it after and all that stuff. Yes, then take, like, literally, you're going to an ice cream shop, you can throw our edible spoons in your car, in your dashboard, and just pick it up from the dashboard and go to the shop and say no to the plastic spoon. A cup is a lesser evil because it's still made with paper, most of it. I mean, there's a lining, but still. But
Unless
it's
you go to
it,
Chick-fil-A, where
yeah,
they haven't got the message yet that like
yeah,
styrofoam's really bad,
yeah,
like
yeah,
really
yeah.
really bad. On
So,
that, oh,
what I'm
good.
trying to say, what I'm trying to say is, use the edible cutlery only when the single use is a must. Like you said, in some food courts or in the games and the concerts and the arenas where reusable stainless steel is very hard to maintain. I would obviously want it happen too, but it might go there like later on. So what I'm trying to say is, like, yeah, customers who need single use as a requirement, yes, then edible cutlery is the best way to go forward.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, or where's I gonna go? There was something I was gonna ask. All right, so real quick, let's get back to Shark Tank, right? So you're walking down. Are you nervous? Are you do you feel confident? Especially with your valuation there, because I believe. Oh no, Robert not on? Robert
No,
wasn't
no,
on
no, no,
there. Oh, because
no.
he seems to be saying "Wow" every time it comes to $500,000.
Yeah. So I walked in with a request of $500,000 for 7.5%. So that imputes to about close to $5 million. Yeah.
You know what? We all know Joe's not great at math off the top of his head, but I wrote down.
Yeah.
Well, I wrote down 7% for five
Seven,
hundred
seven.
thousand.
Yeah, yeah. 7.5%, 7% for $500,000. Yes, you're right.
So yeah, I mean that would be well, yeah, that'd be over 5 million. It would
Yeah, 7 million.
be probably
Seven,
closer to seven.
7 million. Yes. Yeah. So by the way, that was actually a challenging thing for me too. The reason is I have watched a lot of episodes on Shark Tank before, and I do notice the sales revenues that they go in with. In fact, quite a few friends told me, "Hey, you only had a 170K. Do you really think they can go ask that much in there?" Then for me, the point there is, a lot of people are not aware of this. If someone goes into the tank, most of them, when they say they have like 2 million or 3 million in revenue, they would have spent already $1 million or more on the ads and on the spend of making that revenue. From my biggest pitch or my biggest point there was, unfortunately, it got cut out. I spent only $2,000 in marketing, and we made 170K in revenue. So
Yes.
that's you have to see both, right? I mean, you can't just see the revenue part and say, "Hey, I'm doing good." I mean, in fact, I was profitable from the year two itself. It's only like few $1,000s, but still, uh, the, uh, what I'm
That's
trying to say is,
huge.
yeah. So that was more of my thought process, saying that, yeah, if I had $1 million to spend, I would have made $5 million in revenue too. So that was the differential factor for me, saying that, hey, okay, I can go with a better valuation. One reason was that, and the other reason was I already had a couple of safe notes from angel investors, which was capping at like 4 million, 6 million. So I thought I had to do
Mhm.
justice there. And but it was just like we raised about 200K total as a pre-seed round. That's it. Starting in 2021. Till then, it was all bootstrapped. So, and third is IP. So we had the way to manufacture this. That was actually the biggest point. It's, yeah, product sales and all comes later, but the scalability part is more important to us, and that was more value to us rather than the revenue itself. So these are the
Yeah.
main three reasons why I went in with that ridiculous valuation, as some might think of. But yeah, yeah.
Well, I've seen this question come up in the comments of other videos where it's like, oh, you're not worth $4 million until you made $4 million, and it's like, well, you could have spent 300 and 3 million point 3.9 million to make that
Yeah,
4 million. That doesn't mean you're worth 4 million.
yeah.
It depends though. Like every industry, every niche, and there's reasons behind each of that. It's to be worth, because it's like, ooh, if you have a something that people are getting tied into where they're buying over and over and over and over, like if you invent tissues, right, and people are buying them like in a cash cow format where they're just every couple of months they're just buying a couple more boxes of tissues, then it's worth a lot more than it's like, ooh, I bought this one, I bought my Linus Tech Tips water bottle, and okay, cool, but like I don't plan on buying another one anytime. I mean, actually, I have two. When you were saying about buying too many, I have two. I have a black one and a white one, because in the summer, leaving it in the
Yeah,
car,
yeah,
the
yeah,
black
yeah.
one's no good. The black one's very hot to touch.
Yeah.
but yeah, so the valuation is always based on a lot more things than just how much
This
have you
element.
sold, you know,
Yep.
and where's the scalability? Because like as you said, you could have sold 5 million if you had $1 million. So
Yeah.
it wasn't a question of
Yeah.
like maybe possibly. It's like we already have the ability to do this. We just need the money to be able to get it out there
Yeah.
and make it happen.
And to be frank, right, I initially thought it was too early to go in there because I haven't explored social media yet. I have not spent a penny on social media marketing till now. So it's I'm still learning, to be frank. So I'm trying to figure out what's the best ROI, whether what's the conversion rates, what's the better conversion rates, how organic can it be. So I'm trying to explore all that. Again, see, coming back to that, having a job was very giving me that question to experiment before even I go spend money. So I'm trying to doing some experiments and say, hey, okay, let me spend $20 there. Literally, I only spent I think about $40 on Facebook till now. So that too
Nice.
just to understand how it works.
Keep your
So it
money, man.
yeah,
Facebook is tough. It's not going to necessarily lead to direct
yeah,
sales,
yeah,
but it's it's a tool as marketing is in
Mhm.
general for educating
No,
the masses.
another reason for me was, see, my biggest markets were these big guys like large ice cream chains, arenas, concerts, stadiums, and all these places. Facebook might not help me to get them. So I
No.
for me that's why I spent LinkedIn on LinkedIn Sales Navigator to get the contacts, to get the
Yes.
talks going on. So that's how I mean. Right now, my approach is, yeah. Once Dippin' Dots or some other big ice cream chain starts working with us, they are going to provide me all the marketing that I need to the end consumers later on. Anyways, at that time, yes, I can go spend a little more money and show the social media there. But in the starting, I don't have to. So that's the, like as I mentioned, right? Every buck I spend, I want to see how much I can, I mean, how much impact can it make, rather than thinking how much ROI it can come back. So that impact process really helped me to go slow down. Like, okay, think about it. Is it worth doing it? Not worth doing it, and all that stuff. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. So, were you? Did you going into? Did you think you were going to have a feeding frenzy there with so many sharks
Uh,
wanting to jump in?
to be frank, no, I didn't. I didn't. I thought maybe one or two might come on board, but I really didn't think that they would come. The reason is, I mean, there was few things that which were not shown, but like at some places, I was like, hey, I'm not doing this for money. I don't have any intentions to be a millionaire or a billionaire. I openly told that. Like, I just put that
Was
forward,
this
saying because
before or after Kevin gave you an offer? Because I feel like you'd be like, "Wait, what did I just hear him say? Did he just say he doesn't?" All right, I'm out.
I will. It's not so direct, but I kind of told them that I'm here most for the impact. I'll be more happy if I can reduce 100 spoons rather than making $100. So that was mostly my pitch. So I knew when I went there. To answer back your first question, right, were you nervous and all that stuff? I was not, because I was like, what's the worst that could happen? I'm having an experience. I already pitched quite a few companies on these, like on the trade shows and other online nutrition capital advisors, and like Food Bites. There were a few other companies where I could actually pitch in a larger audiences and all. I was not new to pitching, and I mean, I don't have that much stage fear also. So for me it was okay. Like, okay, what the worst what could happen? I can just go there, talk, I get to know these people, talk to them, and just let's pitch my product forward. And if it airs, then well and good. If it doesn't, then it's okay. So I'm just going to go ahead with my life. So I was like I'm very content. I don't have any expectations in the sense, hey, oh yeah. Okay, my only expectations right now is I have to reduce 100 million plastic cutlery before 2025. That's my goal. So I don't know whether it'll happen or not. By the way, that's again, as I told you, it was just one day of consumption in the US. So but that's my goal. So I'm trying to reach to that goal, and I'll try the best means possible. Yeah, if everything goes well, everything will go well. Otherwise, yeah, let me just burn as much as I can. So
Yeah. Well, I mean, you clearly know. I've learned from your experiences. Throughout all. I mean, anybody that's made it this far into the interview can clearly see that, right? Um. So okay, so you get a deal with Lori and you leave, and what's the first thing you do when you get back?
I mean, yeah, they will try to contact you just to talk to you how it goes and all that stuff. So we'll have some post-show interviews and all that in the tank itself, and then yeah, you just head back home and you have to keep quiet about it, and then the due diligence will start a few weeks after. The due diligence will go through, and depending on the due diligence, it continues forward. One thing I can tell you is like for undisclosed reasons that he didn't go through, unfortunately. But I still value and honor the fact that we were on air. It's not really, you won't see it every day that an immigrant from India who did his masters here and did his job was able to be on Shark Tank. So that's the first generation of Indian. I think I'm the first. I don't know. I didn't even look into the history and see whether someone went in or not. But from the comments that I noticed, that some one of the people put a comment on the previous episode. So yeah, that I should really value and be happy for that opportunity that it went on air and everything went well. We had a pretty good decent size of pre-orders, so that's another challenge, right? I was not ready for it to be aired this fast. I was thinking it'll come like next year, January or February. So, and we just switched from 1.0 to 2.0. So our machines are changing right now. We have to literally rechange all the molds that we had. So all the previous spoons, we stopped it because the molds were out of life and we couldn't make good product, good quality spoons there. But we had some stock of 1.0s in the US, but we stopped the production like about August timeframe. And 2.0 machines got delayed because of COVID and like festivals in India and all that stuff. So I didn't have any product to sell once it went on air. I mean, I had a little bit of 1.0s, but not a lot. And once it went air, I really thank the people support, because even as a pre-orders, we were able to get a decent side. I think we made about close to $70,000 worth of pre-orders just on pre-orders alone
Nice.
in like in 2 weeks after it aired. So that I'm very happy for that support. I think the message went through. That's what I'm more I was more worried about. Yeah, product and all. Yeah, you'll have this nice hype because of Shark Tank. Yeah, but I for me the main thing is if the message goes through, they will come back to us later on, even if not immediately. So that's my biggest need, and I think it went on very well. So I should be happy about it, even though the deal didn't go through.
Yeah, there is a lot of there is a lot there, like as far as, because it does change the conversation, right? When you go to the website and it's like, oh, you can't buy it right now, like, oh, you
Mhm.
can't have it because it's not there, and it's like, and people who don't know would be like, what do you mean you didn't prepare? You didn't know? Come on, you had months to figure this out, and you knew you should have known. Like, well, obviously you don't know when you're going to go live.
Yeah.
And like I was saying, when you go home, it is just like, okay, we go back to normal life, go back to doing what we're doing, and
Mhm.
and kind of keep quiet until the time is right, and then they only contact you, what, like 3 weeks out
Yep.
before
Yep.
the show airs,
Yep.
and it's like, okay, ramp up. And I mean, if you haven't watched any of my other interviews with Shark Tank business entrepreneurs, you should totally go watch those, because they have some of the same struggles of like, we didn't know, like, I thought I had more time, or we were in the middle of changing something, and now we had to hurry up and do what we could do. So,
And
I oh, go ahead.
and another thing was supply chain, because right now
Mm.
the global supply chain is horrible. It's taking like close to 6 to 8 weeks instead of 3 to 4 weeks that used to take before. So that's something people are not aware of it. As a manufacturer and supplier and vendors and all that, we are aware of it. But general people are not aware of the congestion that's happening in the Los Angeles port and the New York ports and all the other ports. So it's ridiculously crazy right now. And by the way, that brings back an interesting topic, right? Like coming back to the sustainability aspects, we did notice that there's a carbon offset because this product has been made in India and shipped to here in the US, and also there's a shipping involved from one coast to other and all that stuff. So we are officially carbon negative and plastic negative approved from our third party. Yeah. So each spoon you consume will actually help the planet 4 times, because it will help reduce the same amount of plastic we pick out from the oceans, and we recycle them with the existing plastic. And we, whatever we use, we double compensate it. Even the offsets, the carbon offsets, anything that might happen, we double compensate it, and we got the negative certified.
So that is amazing, because like there was a question in the comments my reaction video of whether or not I would invest in the company if I was there, and my response actually had to do with the carbon offset. If
Yep.
because you're still producing something, so there's
Yep.
still some carbon there. And I don't know the math, like what a plastic spoon. I know the paper straw
Hmm.
situation is not great. It's like twice or three times the amount of energy to create a
Hmm.
paper straw instead of a plastic straw, which is not great. And then a paper straw, usually I got to use two of those because it falls apart about halfway through my drink. which
Mhm.
is not great, especially if we're talking about like a milkshake or something. Then it's like might be 2 or 3 straws, which I
Mhm.
hate to admit, but at that point, I'd rather just have a straw,
Mhm.
like a reusable straw in a restaurant. Who would have thought, right?
Mhm.
Uh, but yeah, I so that is amazing to hear, and I so I'm so
See,
excited for the future here, Dinesh, of what you
yeah,
got going on.
and the reason we did that was one thing I noticed was, I mean, not to like belittle any big companies who made it this big. If you look at major food corporations or major chains and all that stuff, right? One thing I didn't like initially when I was doing this research on sustainability and all that was they grow super big and then they give you terms saying that, hey, by 2050, or by 2030, I will do something about it. uh, see, my one question is, if you really are so dedicated, just do it. I mean, you don't have to wait till 2030. You can do it in the next 2 3 years. I know it's not possible in 2 3 months because it's a big company, but in the next 2 3 years itself, you can actually show the dedication. And if you watch John Oliver's show on plastic pollution, he actually puts it up in a very funny way. The only thing most of the big companies recycle is their claim that they will recycle. So it's a very hard fact, but that's what I've been. I mean, I might be wrong. To be frank, I don't know that much details what efforts they're putting through, but I might be wrong. But what I observed is that they're like, okay, everyone puts say, hey, okay, I'll be sustainable, but I'll be sustainable by this year. Like, do be sustainable right now. That's what more is more important. And that's the reason why I decided, even it's going to increase my cost of the product a little bit, I didn't care. I thought, okay, if I can imbibe that sustainability aspect from my first spoon that I sell, it, even if it grows into selling millions or billions, it will still maintain that because it's already in the roots. You can't change then. You can't go back and say, oh, hey, I have to make 2 more cents out of this. Let me just stop doing that offsets. It's very rare that you would do that because you're already used to that. So that's another reason why I had to do it much much early. In fact, even the workers that we hire in India, we make sure that they're coming from very low wage people, and we try to give them good benefits and all that stuff. So every part of your product, like your journey, right, from the start to the finish, you need to make sure that it's as close to the planet as possible. Again, we still try striving towards it. Our wrappers are paper as much as they can, and that paper is still not so good as you mentioned. I mean, it's very thin, it's biodegradable, but it's still not as good. But we have to switch to the bulk wrapping. But bulk wrapping right now, not many people are accepting it because of COVID, because they don't want to touch the spoon. So there are some challenges. Yeah, again, even that paper we offset it. So that's why we're trying to. Yeah, we are making a small problem out of this by wrapping them up, but we're trying to compensate it. But that's not the final, I would say, the final goal that I have. My goal is to
Mhm.
have just bulk wrapped and then directly going to the store, and the ice cream shop gives you the product by default. That's my dream goal, which uses less packaging also. So, but again, right now I have to cut short of some of my dreams. So make sure that the reality happens one step at a time.
Yeah, and I think that's important to keep the goal in focus, right? And realize that like, oh, we're not going to get there overnight. I mean, look, if Elon Musk wanted an electric car overnight, he would have given up back in 2003. We wouldn't be here all these years later for it, because it would have been like, it can't happen all at once, so we're just not going to do it. And like, I mean, if you ever probably watched the Who Killed the Electric Car, documentary, like it wasn't all going to happen at once, and that's one of the things that those big companies want to have, is like, how do we make this happen all at once very quickly so that we can make a big profit. And
and and also, not just that, right? Coming back to electric cars, right? Nowadays people are bringing this topic of what to do with the batteries after 10 years. So this we have to think before itself. So yes, if I have a company which can make millions of electric cars, as a company, when even before I bring into the market, if we have a path forward to say, okay, what do I do with the batteries after 10 years? How can I reutilize them so it can be used? I mean, it's actually brings up an opportunity for startups too. If people who are other electrical engineers or something, instead of thinking about making a new product by brand virgin materials, they can think, okay, now after 15 years, electric car is not going to be on the road anymore. What do I do with its parts, especially the batteries? What do I do with them? How do I recycle them? Shall I like? So these are opportunities that we can actually utilize as well. So,
no, absolutely. I mean, I think Tesla at this point has said that they can
yeah, yeah,
recycle like 80 to 100% of the battery, which is great, and needs to be, because like that's
yeah.
one of the biggest things against it.
Mhm.
Is like, oh well, we
Yep.
got to get lithium and blah 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 blah
Mhm.
blah, and that's
Mhm.
not clean, and it's using dirty energy, and 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 especially if you can't recycle the thing, it becomes a problem. That's why I mean this is such a complicated saving the planet is such a complicated thing. Like the one in the nutshell video talked about like, did you know 8% of the carbon emissions come from concrete? And everyone I told that it's like, really? And I'm like, well, yeah, but we're not getting rid of concrete tomorrow because we kind of need it. So we got to come up with some other solutions, solutions along the way to either offset that because concrete's not going anywhere,
Mhm.
or find up a whole new way to replace concrete. And it's just not,
Yeah. Yeah.
that doesn't happen tomorrow. But I think it's important that we keep as you are, keep the mission in focus. And money will absolutely be coming. And I mean, by the time you're probably gonna be a billionaire there, Dinesh. So
As I mentioned,
just don't forget me
I
when
don't
you're done.
I don't intend to be. So if it comes, it comes. But I don't intend to be.
Well, it's all right.
That's
You
not my
can just
intention.
donate all of it. It's all, you don't have to be a billionaire. You'll just continuously expend the money in
The,
donations
the,
and things.
the problem with being a millionaire or billionaire is you have to keep holding that status if you go there. if, if you don't go there, you don't have to think about it much. On a fun
Oh,
side, on a fun side of it.
well, it's I know you've watched Silicon Valley, right?
Yeah.
And the three comma club and the three comma tequila or whatever it is. Um, yeah, that it is. It is a weird thing. But it reminds me of the guy who invented, was it 5 Hour Energy? And he's Indian, I believe. And he's
Yeah.
like, I'm never gonna be as cool as like any of these other, millionaire, billionaire people. And he's like, like just investing it in like, I think it was like prosthetics or something to that effect, so to help people be able to walk again. And it's like, wow, okay, cool. Like, I don't drink five. My dad drinks a lot of 5 Hour Energies. I personally don't, but it's just like, wow, that's something to get, a cool way to give back, instead of
Yeah.
just being like,
And yeah.
I'm rich, like let's go.
And another reason is with whatever 10 years of savings, I mean, my grandmother taught me the value of charity and the happiness it brings. And I already met my life goal of saving 10,000 people. So I'm content. So how can you go and ask a content person to go make $1 million or $1 billion, right? So that's the thing, right? It's very hard. I mean, people find me very awkward and weird when I say that, but that's okay.
No, I
Yeah.
don't find it weird. Honestly, I don't feel. I left my family's $100 million business because money doesn't do anything for me,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I mean, it does things. We need it to be able to have a house and do all the things that we want to do. But like, I'm not driven by money. I'm driven by mission. I'm driven by helping people. I'm driven by a lot of other things than how much money can I have and how many toys can that
Yeah.
buy me, right? I know what toys. I don't want to say the word turn me on because that's taken out of context. It could be taken out of context. But what I will say is it's important to know what drives you, and technology is one of those things. So like, while I'm not gonna, spend a whole bunch of money on this or that, other people would. But to me, it's like I get the things that make sense and improve my quality of life
Yeah.
along the way. And that's what I really care.
Uh,
That's one of the things I
And,
really care
and
about.
and also another thing, right? It goes back to my original question. Okay, I became a millionaire or a billionaire through some other investments. Forget about edible cutlet or edible spoons. Now my kids are grown up. I'm almost at my deathbed, and they're like 30s and 40s or whatever, and they can't eat food or they can't drink the water like we had. Like they can't live like how we lived. Then what's the point of me making so much? What's the point of me having billions? In fact, this is one of the things that I wanted to ask Kevin, especially like, oh, when he asked about when he said about money, where I said actually told that yeah, money is good, but what's the point if my kids can't eat or live the way it does? So that's my fear, right? My fear, like in the future, how it's going to be for them. Yeah. I- will having $1 billion save them or having a better planet save them? That's a simple question.
It was the ABC News Tonight or whatever it's called last night showed the Amazon rainforest, and there was like, it wasn't the Amazon rainforest, it was the Amazon desert. And it's like very eerie, like this is what we're staring down the barrel of on a mass scale everywhere, if we don't make changes.
Yeah.
The sweetness of plentifulness of life is not forever. And we need to really be careful because we're going to tip the scale. We're already tipping the scale way too much. Um, so yeah, I love it,
Yeah.
Dinesh. I
Yeah.
absolutely
Thanks.
love it.
And I would like to end with one note. What I observed from my journey of entrepreneurship and even as a person, as an individual, and all that is people want companies to change, companies want people to change, and investors are here just for the bucks. So we are leaving the planet on the side. So
That
so
yep, it's all about point again. Where's the bad guy? The company say, "Oh, you're the bad guy because you keep buying our things that we keep marketing to you." Like, yes,
yeah.
but this is we all got one planet. Like, we're all playing on the same field here. Like,
No, I mean, the thing is, in that vicious cycle, we forgot about the planet. So I just want to bring that back in as much as I can. Yeah.
I think and destigmatizing the tree huggers, I think, is important too. And realizing like they want to be extreme because we're not because we're being extreme in in the opposite direction and don't realize it because we're just so embedded with the way the life that we've created for
Yeah,
ourselves
and
is.
and actually, the another reason of change is can happen slowly. The reason for one beautiful example, as I grew up, I think most of the Indians would know us. A lot of my friends back in India, I'm a vegetarian by birth, but I had a lot of friends who eat meat, but they only eat on Sundays and Saturdays. They don't eat on the weekdays.
Oh,
Only recently, this fact of meat as a staple diet came in from Western cultures to Indian culture, and we started eating almost every day. So even the change can happen in that way. Yeah, in the US, I don't expect everyone to change to vegan or vegetarian by like a few days or few months. But if they can slowly reduce the consumption, whether do I really have to eat meat every day? Yeah, let's do it like once in 2 days, once in 3 days, once in 4 days, once in 5 days. Yeah, slowly you can give it up. Or even if it might be okay if billions of people are only eating on their weekends. So that change, I mean, obviously sometimes if you go to the extreme and say, hey, you should not eat meat at all, yeah, it will not go to all the people, one step at a time.
I've had this conversation with my dad a bunch of times. I'm like, look, they're like, oh, these people are blaming the cows. It's all the cows. I'm like, okay, look, do we really need a McDonald's and a Burger King and a Wendy's on every single corner that's all serving burger? Do we?
Yeah.
I mean, do we really need that? Like, I'm not saying that we should get rid of cows and meat and all that. I'm just saying, like, do we need it to be to that level of like every corner in America has beef? Like, does it really need to be that level? Like, I'm not saying we shouldn't be able to go get steaks if we want steaks, like at the grocery market or whatever. But like, I just don't see it now. What there is something to be said for supply and demand, and if those the McDonald's and all them were to say curtail down the amount of meat that they were selling, as to say, don't make burgers your staple. That's all I'm saying. Just don't make
Yep.
it the staple. Make it the plus thing. Make it the
Yep.
the special thing, not the oh yeah, you came in for the dollar burger, right? And the supply and demand would change, would kind of shift the price of meat in general, maybe not in a great direction, and kind of push up the price, and disable the ability for people to get it. I mean, there's also how many people should be eating it. And Dinesh, we could talk about this all day. I could like literally go all
I
day
know, I know.
with
I
you
think
on
I
this.
think we both love talking. I think let people. It might be like looking at the length of this interview, but that's good. That's a good discussion.
No, it is. It is. So, well, before we wrap up, how can people get in touch with you? How can people get the incredible eats, spoons, and and other cutlery?
Yeah, they can go to our website, incredibleeats.com. Previously, it used to be called incrediblespoon.com. Both of them point to the same website right now. So, or we are on Amazon, but in a limited 1.0 quantity right now. The 2.0s will be coming in soon on Amazon. So, the dessert spoons are available right now for pre-orders, which should be fulfilled in the next few weeks. But the tablespoon 2.0 and our sporks, table sporks, are coming in from January. So please be patient. We really apologize for our logistic mishaps and logistic delays. But that's yeah, you're getting a you'll love it once you get it into your hand. And the straws and the chopsticks will be available starting Q1 or Q2 of next year. So we're slowly ramping up those as well. And this is a bootstrap company still, like just very small amount of investment. So we are going to take some time. I mean, I'm not going to over promise you here. So, and then you can reach me out on the contact us section, or you can reach me at hello@i-eats.com. So our team is just team of two people right now. So we look into that email very often. So hello@i-eats.com.
Love it. Super Dinesh, I greatly appreciate your time and being here and your mission. And like I said, I could talk about this stuff all day long. Super Dinesh, is there any last thoughts you'd like to share before we wrap up here?
No, just go with your passions, and along with your passions, think about the planet also. That's it.
100%. Ding, ding.
Yeah.
If you've enjoyed this video, if you've enjoyed this interview, please go and check out Incredible Eats. Go over to superjoepardo.com and reach out to me if you have some thoughts, or write them down in the comments below. Otherwise, I will see you in one of these two next videos over here. Take care, everybody.